Give a little of yourself. Cure your greed, purify your wealth. Look around at where you live. Look at all the good you have to give. Give a little of yourself. There's a hand somewhere to hold, a mouth to feed. There's so much that we can do for so many who are in need. Give our time, give our wealth, give our love, give ourselves. Know Allah sees each and every hidden deed. Give a little of yourself. Cure your greed, purify your wealth. Look around at where you live. Look at all the good you have to give. Give a little of yourself. Take a look at all the people everywhere.
Assalamu alaikum, good evening and welcome to the Leadership Traits for Transformative Success with guest speaker Wadah Khanfar and your moderator for the evening, Dr. Zachariah Matthews. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land on which we meet and extend a warm welcome to any Indigenous persons here with us today. Just Media Advocacy, JMA, and the Believe, Achieve, Inspire Leadership Program, BAILP, are proud to host tonight's special event with Mr. Wadah Khanfar, the former Director General of the Al-Jazeerah network. This evening will be full of inspiration and new ideas and thought. And along with Dr. Zachariah Matthews, you will all have the privilege to converse, engage, and interact with the man who Forbes magazine described as one of the most powerful in the world. Now, for the formal introduction for the evening, I would like to invite Dr. Zachariah Matthews to the stage. Dr. Zachariah Matthews, a pharmacist by profession, is a public speaker and community activist. He is currently the Executive Director of Just Media Advocacy and Principal Instructor with Dean Academy and Director of Pharmacy at QandA Hospital. Dr. Zachariah Matthews, thank you.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Firstly, I'd like to thank Brother Wadah for accepting our hospitality and generously offering his time to us in Sydney. We thank him for that. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless him for his generosity. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to also reward him and to make his stay in Australia and especially Sydney comfortable and worthwhile, inshallah. On behalf of Just Media Advocacy, welcome to tonight's event in conjunction with the BAILP program. Just Media Advocacy, for those of you who know, and for those of you who don't, is an advocacy project that we initiated January last year to try and engage with the media, specifically on two fronts. To engage with the media with regard to religious vilification and racial vilification. So we will monitor the media and then we will take up or we will engage with journalists specifically in the first instance to try and get resolution of any issues that we feel are of concern with in particular reports. So we've been going since January last year, and alhamdulillah, by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have managed to establish some relationships with the media and have some level of success in our advocacy work. Tonight's dinner is more about leadership and leveraging off the experience of Brother Wadah, and especially with his experience and the time that he spent 8 years managing the Al-Jazeerah network. And so inshallah, this is a great opportunity for us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with to learn and gain an insight into this, and inshallah take some of these lessons that we gleaned tonight, take that with us and try and implement it in our own activities or campaigns or projects that we are working on. So that's our hope and our plan for tonight. And we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we achieve success in this particular objective of ours. So once again, thank you very much. And I hope, inshallah, and I pray that your time spent here tonight, inshallah, is of value to you. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi.
He was ranked first in Foreign Policy magazine's Top 100 Global Thinkers and was one of Fast Company's most creative people in business in 2011. Please make him welcome, Wadah Khanfar.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. In the next 20 minutes, I'm going to kill you a lot of things. I'm going to sort out all the problems of the Middle East, inshallah. About myself, about Al-Jazeerah, and everything based on the instructions of Dr. Zakaria. In 20 minutes, all of that is going to be done. So, inshallah, you will be not disappointed at all. Now, actually, it is one of my problems always dealing with instructions. Just to start with. Always you have boss, and always your boss gives you certain instructions. And also you have your own, agenda. So leadership is about getting the best out of the possibilities that you have and out the necessities that you also face. So I will try, inshallah, to do this in the next 20 minutes. Just to start with, and I know that you have a lot of questions, and I prefer actually questions and answers more than a speech like this. I would like just to say that in leadership, the word leadership has to do about you personally in three major dimensions. The first one is your mind, aql, and the second one is your nafs, self, and the third one is your what? What else? العقل والنفس والروح مش كده؟ And some people will argue what is the difference between nafs and ruh. There's another discussion. They are not the same thing. This is also something else. We will speak about it if you like in a moment of time. But let me start by al-aql. The most important element in any leader's capabilities to really continue to lead and to enhance himself, to realize that he's legit, not genius. Once you decide that you know much more than others, and once you believe that you are above others in knowledge and in your capabilities, you are doomed to fail. Simple. Because it is not true. Not true at all. I think the most important element in any leader's psychology is to have the capacity to sit and learn from everyone and from everything and from every event. That's very necessary, by the way, because in my career I have found a lot of managers who used to work with me. They always fail. Why? Because they think they know, and they think that they should not ask, and they think when they sit with others that others do not have as much as they have to offer. So people don't trust them, people don't like them, people think of them as arrogant and hide information from them, and later on they lose respect and they lose team management, they lose everything. And they end basically without really being capable of capturing the imagination of their employees or their team. That's very necessary. And when you do that, maybe some of us believe we are superior and we are magnificent and fantastic and knowledgeable. That's fine if you do believe so, but at least behave in a way that does not reflect your belief. Try, if you, in Arabic we say that إذا لم تكن متواضعا فتواضع. If you are not humble by nature, pretend that you're humble. At least. Why? Because with time you will realize the benefits of that kind of pretending, and you will truly embrace it. Once you realize to what extent you can get out of people, simple people, naive people, ordinary people, even things, even creation. We have in our philosophy that this whole creation is interconnected. Sahih? Even our Lord Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us that وَمَا مِن شَيْءٍ إِلَّا يُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِهِ. So everything in this universe is part of that huge spirit, collective mind, if you like to say. And it has its own universal memory and universal language. So in everything there is a lesson. And around you, you should just open your eyes, see the signs, and try to learn from everything that we encounter in life and every test that we go through. So we have to work hard on getting rid of the complex of superiority that we have in ourselves. And someone would argue, since I have reached this position of leadership or management, definitely I have been chosen because I'm unique, I'm different. Not necessarily, and not always. If you have been chosen, at least you should from there start to learn how to listen and how to appreciate what people have. And I remember the first day I went to Al-Jazeerah. Actually, I was not a good manager in my life. I've never been a manager. I was a reporter living in the wild, all over my life. I was in Africa for 12 years, traveling from a tribe to another, sitting with people, appreciating the beauty of cultures and, African, I don't know what, the music and everything else. Then I went to Afghanistan, also another wild society that I was living with, fantastic people, original people, and so on and so forth. Then I went to Iraq, and I also, again, I lived in a very, I don't want to say anything about Iraq because I have a brother from Iraq here, so the Iraqis also are very good people, and I really I enjoyed actually my life in Iraq. Then I was appointed suddenly the managing director of Al-Jazeerah Arabic. And really, that was not easy. I've never read books of management. I did not go through courses of management. I did not, I've never thought of myself as a manager because I enjoy what I'm doing. I love being in the field. I love interacting with people, recording their emotions, recording their thoughts and ideas, and telling the world their stories. Now I am there in the midst of an organization which, important thing about an organization, it has a collective mind and spirit. You know that. Every organization has its own identity. Now this guy coming from the field, a reporter coming from the field, sitting in a newsroom or leading a newsroom where, people who have, which is true, people started working in BBC before I was born. Some excellent colleagues of mine in Al-Jazeerah, like Jamil Azar, some of you know, or watch Al-Jazeerah, and like many others, did start, actually, their career before 1968, when I was born. And, journalism and TV in particular is all about show. And therefore, there is a strong element involved of hierarchy, and fame. And therefore, to manage newsroom and to manage organization that broadcast on a screen, you need to deal with a lot of psychological element of people believing that they are really important, because everyone tells them you are important. You are there on the screen, then wherever you are, wherever you go, whenever people see you, say, magnificent, you are the best in the world, you are fantastic, you are knowledgeable, you are great, you are mashallah, yesterday you did excellent interview, I like your questions. And then they start to believe that, of course, they are really something different. Now that element is complicated. So newsrooms normally are very complicated. And the newsrooms are very tense. And there is a strong feeling amongst the people of the newsroom of, that kind of hierarchy and that kind of importance as well. So you need to lead people like that. So the first thing I did, two things I did. The first one, call the leading figures, all of them to my office, and tell them, listen, I don't really know, and I am not having solutions. You know much more than me because you are here. You have been doing this for now years. I would like to learn from you. And then literally I will carry my pen and my notepad, and then I will make them speak for 1 hour or more, and then I will take notes. And I will discuss with them their thoughts and ideas. In a manner that I'm trying really to learn. And I was serious about it. I was not pretending. I wanted to know what you are doing. What do you think about the future of this network? What do you think we should do in order to enhance? So everyone will give his narrative. And you learn from all of these people. The second thing I did, we hired a tent in the yard of Al-Jazeerah, and we did something called Loya Jirga. You know what is Loya Jirga? Loya Jirga is actually a terminology that describes the traditional tribal meeting of the Afghanis in Afghanistan. So when there is a major problem in Afghanistan, tribal chiefs sit together in one tent and start deliberating about the future of their country, and then they reach solutions and conclusions. So I borrowed that terminology from my Afghani experience, and we said something, okay, like biology. Okay, so in every weekend at night, we will invite all the employees of the network to join an open discussion on issues related to the future of the network. And then you have to be very patient to sit there and to learn and to listen and to engage in discussion and to tolerate also a lot of emotionality, a lot of criticism, and a lot of, maybe sometimes bad temper and sometimes even, a little bit of aggressive terminologies and something that could be used from employees. Fine. So you listen to the people. But slowly you can start, collecting ideas and at the same time, allow people to speak. Because I've discovered in the workspace, if you don't allow people to speak and to express their views, that might become negative energy stored within their minds and their cells, and that will fire back and create a lot of troubles, and at least insincerity, and they might not be genuine in delivering whatever they have. So this is one of the things. Second one, I said, so we have the aql, which I think we should. The aql story is not that you should become a philosopher. It is not that you are knowledgeable. It is you should realize that you must learn. And you cannot become a leader unless people really think that they can communicate with you and they can teach you and they can feel secure in sitting and talking to you, rather than they feel threatened by your, dominant ideas and thoughts and so on. The second element, which is necessary as well, is the issue of the self. All of us have complexes in our life. Every one of us has something to be proud of. Every one of us has fears of some kind of sort. But the most important and dangerous feeling that a leader should get rid of is hatred, and is to feel negative against someone and to carry that in your heart and to avenge. Leaders do not do that. Leaders by nature have good hearts in a way, so they let things go. In Arabic we say سيد القوم لا يحمل الحقد, that the leader of people does not carry in his heart hatred against others. What is haqd? Haqd. Malice. So he does not carry malice in his heart. That's important. Because if you behave like everyone else and you try to avenge from everyone who insults you or from everyone who might, not be happy with you, you are going to get problems. Even if you have some of that in your heart, hide it. And act against it. Act against it. Like what the Imam Shafi used to say, that some people, try to deceive us, and we make ourselves deceivable, because sometimes you really, let things go. Don't always try to correct every single emotionally, or respond to every single criticism, or clear every single remark. Not necessary. Why? You should concentrate on big pictures. You should concentrate on the direction, and don't involve yourself in petty issues that might in the future as well create a lot of enmity and hostility in the hearts of the people. And believe me, no human being, whatever that human being is, no one but will be affected by kindness. And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us in the Quran. صحيح. ادفع بالتي هي أحسن فإذا الذي بينك وبينه عداوة كأنه ولي حميم. ولي حميم. So if Allah has told us so, and He is the Creator, and who, definitely that has. And I think that is everyone of us could try. Once you approach people with kindness, regardless of whatever nature they have, they will be touched by that. If they even do not show it, you have changed something within them. And that's something within them, a seed that will grow in the future and change them entirely, and might even convert them to become your allies and your friends and your close associates. So that is necessary, and I think we should work on it. So the leader has that kind of psychology of love, of not really taking care of all this kind of nonsense, and try always to, feel that the big picture must go above all the small issues. Now, I will go to one thing which Muawiyah, he was a great leader. You know Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. He was a great statesman. Now, some people will argue about whatever, but Muawiyah, as a statesman, was a great person. One day, someone, his hajib of the guard, came to him and said, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, O commander of the believers, someone out there is saying that he is carrying the shoes of the Prophet, okay, the sandals of the Prophet, and he would like to come and give it to you. So Muawiyah told him, okay, let him in. And that gentleman came in, and he told him, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, I have the shoes, which is the shoes of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So what did Muawiyah do? Muawiyah carried the shoes, he kissed them. He put it on his eyes, and he kept it beside him, and he told his treasurer, give him 1,000 dinars. Thank you very much. Jazakallahu khairan. Go out. After the man left, his companions told Muawiyah, you know that this shoes is not actually the Prophet's shoes. This man is alive. He said, of course I know. You think I don't know that he's alive? Do you want him to go out of my court and go tell the people that I have come to Muawiyah with the shoes of the Prophet and he insulted me and he did not accept it? People tend to believe each other, and I'm going to lose all of my reputation. I have bought my reputation with 1,000 dinar, not much. That's very big picture. He did not involve in long discussion with the gentleman. For a word did you buy? Okay, fine. Sometimes, as a leader, you need to let things go, deal with it easily, and maybe yes, people could deceive you. So what? Let it be. It doesn't matter, as long as the big picture and the direction and the compass is in the right direction. When you get really angry, or let us say, get tense about things, when you feel that that particular event is actually taking you away from your compass, from your direction, from your strategy, then you really need to interfere in a very strict manner and try to be firm. Besides that, few other things coming around us, it doesn't matter. Let things go. Going back to His Royal Highness, Mr. Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan, tell you another story about him. Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan and a gentleman called Amr ibn al-As, who was a Sahabi as well, used to have a lot of argument amongst themselves about who is the most intelligent, leader. So one day Muawiyah told Amr, he said, oh Amr, who you think more intelligent in politics, me or you? He said, me, ya Amir al-Mu'mineen. He said, why? He said, because I have never ever entered in any problem without knowing how to get out of it. He said, subhanallah, I am much more intelligent than you. He said, how? He said, I have never ever entered any problem that I needed to get out of it. So Muawiyah was also forward thinking. Well, this is also important in leadership. Anyway, we forget now about Muawiyah, and let us move a little bit to the third category, which I think is very important, and meet another gentleman. His name is Ibn Ata'illah al-Secondary. And that alim and Sufi master who lived in the 13th century in Cairo, or in Alexandria, I think, Al-Iskandari, from, okay, inshallah, maybe he was in Cairo, I don't know. But anyway, he was in Egypt anyway. That gentleman is a magnificent human being, I must say. He is magnificent because he had a journey on his own. He was a faqih, a Shafi'i faqih, and he decided in a moment of time to migrate from the circle of fiqh to Sufism. For long story, you can read about it on the internet if you like. But it's an amazing story, like the one of Abu Hamid al-Ghazali, the great Sufi as well of Baghdad. Now, Ibn Ata'illah II, he wrote a magnificent book. Consists of about 10-15 pages. And I advise everyone to go search on the internet and download it. It's available there. It's called Al-Hikam Al-Ata'iyya. Okay? The book of wisdom. for Ibn Ata'illah al-Secondary. When you search on it, you will find it. It's in Arabic and English. In the Book of Wisdom, Ibn Ata'illah al-Secondary said very important things about the way that you approach people. And he told us that كل كلام, this is in Arabic, كل كلام يبرز وعليه كسوة القلب الذي برز منه. My language, my English is not good, so maybe someone could help me in the translation. The words say كل كلام يبرز وعليه كسوة القلب الذي برز منه. That every discourse, every speech comes out of your mouth, covered with the texture of your heart. The nature, the makeup of your discourse is from the texture of your heart. So that's necessary. Now, so he's shifting the discussion about discourse from the meaning of words, the verbal rhetoric, into much more deeper spiritual feeling, which is what is in your heart. This is very important. Now, I noticed that some people talk and their speech touches your heart. But they are not the most eloquent people in the world. They are not the most outspoken people in the world. They are not using the most magnificent terminology in the universe. They have never graduated from Harvard School of Journalism or whatever it is. They have been actually simple people. But their heart was clean, was beautiful, and sincere. So their discourse comes straight from your heart. And some people who are fantastic, eloquent, they have delivered hundreds of speeches, and they have, mashallah, books all over the world, and so on and so forth. They speak, nothing resides in your heart. They speak, you hear them, maybe amazing, the way that they speak, amazing the way they are using terminologies and languages and so on. But it goes from here, and goes from there. Now, this, Ibn Ata'illah Secondary, refer everything to the heart. And this is the third element that I would like to talk about in the leadership, which I think someone has to come and develop a theory about it, which is spirituality. A leader without anchoring himself deep into the realm of spirituality, is more likely to be broken, more likely to succumb to pressures of details and to the pressure of emotions and to the pressure of everything else in leadership. Because leadership, once you are there on top of an organization, you are going to be confronted by every form and shape of problems. Political, management politics, you will be confronted by necessities, by tension, by impatience with your employees, by psychological troubles that you have to deal with on a daily basis with your employees, with a lot of things. Lack of time to spend on yourself. So you need very high quality time with yourself, and that cannot be achieved unless you have proper understanding of spiritual. This is why someone like Ibn Ata'illah Secondary has taught me a lot. And someone asked me earlier, who was the guy who... Actually, I would say that terminology in particular, I did ask one of the artists to write it in calligraphy, and I put it in Al-Jazeerah. It was on Al-Jazeerah walls. كل كلام يبرز وعليه كسوة القلب الذي برز. And that is what I do believe in it. And I do believe that most correspondents, most anchors, most journalists that were very much accepted by the public and adored by the audience were not actually the most, outspoken necessarily, but they were actually the most sincere. So people like them. I don't know how, but people like to say, no, this guy, he speaks the truth. This guy, we trust him. And as you know, in journalism, there is an element of trust between you and the audience. So people have to trust you in order to believe in you. And that is necessary. Trust is very important because the commodity that you are selling is a news. And if people don't trust you, so your news irrelevant because they doubt it. Who knows? So there is a strong element of trust that could be achieved through your personal, solid commitment to ideals and values. And continuing to be committed to ideas and values, you need strong spiritual support. You need very strong spiritual support in leadership, especially in politics and in media, because both of them are in the realm of the ambiguity, the realm of the gray area. It's not about haqq and batil, it's not about truth and falsehood, it's not about black and white. It is actually in between. So you need always to take decisions that are not necessarily very clear. You need to take steps that you are not necessarily following someone else. Every day you are going to deal with events unfolding, taking decisions about them, and it is a matter of judgment, and this judgment could betray you if you are not strongly committed to values. Because if you are committed to interest only, interest could lead you to sacrifice a lot of issues that people will lose the trust in you. But if you are committed to values and ethics and morality, that most likely going to protect you from falling in the traps of personal interest or selfishness or the glamour of light and fame. So that is necessary. Now, what is spiritualism again? Spiritualism is not only about you spending hours and hours in prayers. It's not about, of course, if you could afford it, everyone of us could have his own way to how he could develop a spiritual element in his character. But I do believe spirituality is a quality time that you spend with your Creator. Is maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 1 day, or it depends on you. Every one of us has his own path towards the higher order, or towards, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and towards the transcendental, let us say. That is going to be done through very, concentrated moment of connection, of realization that you are part of this universe, and you are part of this creation, and you are committed to higher order, and you are committed to something more transcendental than this worldly, materialistic life that you are living in. And that everyone else could acquire skills, or could follow someone else's skills in reaching to that point. And believe me, the 5 minutes or 10 minutes that you spend contemplating and meditating and connecting are going to protect you from a lot of traps that you might collapse in and lose compass and lose direction as well. So these are 3 elements, all of them are on top of the whole matter. I'm not speaking about skills of leadership today, unless if someone asks me, that's another story, because I think we have here with us trainers, and we have with us people who have been doing a lot of great job in telling people how to act as great managers or leaders or so on and so forth. But I thought that these are 3 important meanings: the mind, the nafs, the self, and the soul. These 3 we should take care of these issues, and we could later on move into the other layer of skills, procedures, policies, and communication strategies that leaders should acquire. But without having that higher order that I'm talking about, or that philosophical, epistemological, spiritual component in you, most likely you may not sustain yourself as a leader. Easily you could be broken, easily you could be, actually abandoned. And the leader who could only continue to be a leader by force is not a good leader. As you know, we had leaders in the Middle East who spent more than 40 years as presidents, like Hosni Mubarak in Egypt and Gaddafi and others. Now, they have been there, but does that mean that they're good leaders? So survival is not necessarily a sign of excellent leadership skill, because survival could happen because of many reasons. But leaders who leave behind them a legacy, even if they lead for 2 years or 3 years. There is a gentleman called Umar ibn Abdul Aziz in our history, the fifth guided Khalifa, Sahih. And he left his post, or he died, after how long in post? 2 years. 2 years, I think 2 years, 3 months, or less than that. But until today, there are many lessons that people refer to in order to learn from his experience. It's not a matter of time. It is a matter of quality, and a matter of vision, and a matter of strength, and a matter of delivery, of this high order that I'm talking about, that actually really make people think of you as a leader and follow you, and follow you voluntarily, and think of you as someone who they could benefit from. But if you would like to force yourself on people, always you can have excellent intelligence agency and magnificent, police and so on and so forth, and you can put everyone in jail and they become your subjects. We are looking not for subjects. We would like really to have associates who could follow a mission that you are representing for them, and a vision. And visions and missions can never be guarded but by leaders. You don't guard mission by laws and regulations. Laws and regulations do not actually protect the vision and the mission. This is why I have a problem sometimes with some people who would like really to make everyone righteous, everyone good, everyone perfect by law. You can't do that. You can have laws and regulations, but the most important element is to continue providing people with mission and vision. And that should be done by leaders, where people look up to, not fear from. And I hope I have delivered something. I don't know if I finished the 20 minutes, Yahid? 20 minutes خلاص? MashaAllah, Jazakallah khair. Thank you very much. And of course, I'll be glad to hear your questions, and then we can move to the other session, inshallah.
Jazakallah khairan. The three aspects that Brother Wadah covered was very insightful and somewhat untraditional when we talk about leadership traits for successful transformation or transformative success. So what we're going to do now, inshallah, in the next 60 minutes or so, we're going to have an open forum. I'll be your moderator. We're going to ask questions of Brother Wadah. We're also going to use the Twitter feed. The brother's putting that up. Abdullah's going to put it up, inshallah. So you have a choice. You can ask your question through Twitter. We're using the social media network, new media, inshallah. But if I could just request that, obviously, and you do this anyway, I don't need to remind you about this. Whenever tweeting, you need to make sure that your tweets are responsible. So I'm just going to remind you of that code of conduct, inshallah, with regard to Twitter. You can ask your question verbally. We have 2 microphones going around, inshallah, and we'll take some questions from Twitter as well. If I could request for the first questions to deal with the topic on leadership, and then we'll open it after that. After we're finished, we'll spend maybe 10-15 minutes on the issue of leadership, and then we'll expand it to anything you'd like to ask after that, inshallah. Everybody happy with that? Pretty simple instructions and rules. We don't want to dictate to you what to do. We are trying to keep it as open as we can, inshallah. So who would like to start? Let me start with the first question. What is there a difference between managing and leading? You mentioned at the World PR Forum that we need more leaders, less managers.
Correct. Yes, I said that we need more leaders, less managers. Why? Managers are useful and important because they do manage programs and they do achieve, delivery. But managers without leaders, they will not achieve in the right direction. They might achieve, but not necessarily in the right direction. Leadership is about, as I said, is about vision and about making everything in your organization or your community going into that direction. That's necessary. So I know where we are heading from here. This means you have to be able to forecast, you will be able to have foresight, you have to be able to imagine the future, and to have very clear direction. If you are having all of that, then you must make sure that managers around you act in the same direction. So whatever they deliver, they will deliver to suit that particular end. Otherwise, if every manager has his own philosophy or his own direction, and then he continues to deliver based on his personal vision and mission that might not be in sync with the overall mission and vision that you have decided for the organization or for the community that you are leading, I think managers here in this case will become huge obstacle in the face of achieving success. They might achieve their own success on their own circle, but their success is in this direction, and the other success is in the other direction, but not definitely in the direction that the leader has set up.
Okay, so if you allow me a follow-up question then, the distinguishing feature therefore is vision. Someone without a vision is not a leader. So if we take your Al-Jazeerah experience, what vision did you embark or start out with when you took over the role of Director General?
The result of the discussion that I told you about, I mean, when we sat together with my colleagues in the lawyer tent, after a long discussion, after 6 months actually of discussion, we have defined a vision collectively, not me personally. And we were trying to answer the following questions. What does Al-Jazeerah mean for us? And what should Al-Jazeerah achieve for the audience? So we came up with very concise statement, which we call it the vision statement. And that vision statement defined exactly what Al-Jazeerah is, what is the identity of Al-Jazeerah, and which direction we are heading and mission that we should achieve. And that was accepted by the organization. Then every single plan and program was in sync with this particular vision. My role after that is to make sure that everything is going into this direction. Because with time, if you do not really keep the campus with you, and this is what I literally feel, the leader is someone who is carrying a campus, making sure that the direction is right, you know. And managers are in sync with this direction through, you know, intensive communication and repetition of the vision and reminding people about the vision. And don't allow events to divert you from the vision. Don't allow necessities to divert you from, you know, some people go, oh, okay, things have changed. Okay, things have changed. Let's sit down and see how could, you know, deliver in the right direction rather than deliver in the other direction. When I said we have less managers, because I do believe the more technology is providing us with solutions, the more managers are less likely to consume time in managing. You know, before we used to, in order to communicate, we have to have meetings. Sahih, you remember that every single. This is about 10 years ago. Now we have email, so we started communicating with email. Now we have different WhatsApp group, whatever. I mean, less and less time is needed to manage, and therefore more and more time is needed to keep the campus in the right direction. The second issue as well, why this managers more directors, more leaders, is actually the delivery is faster than ever. What we used to achieve in 10 years could be achieved nowadays in 10 months. Just, this is, I'm speaking two decades ago, what we used to achieve, because we have to write letters and send it by post, then we started sending it by fax, and then we started sending it by email, and now we can communicate any second, any moment, wherever we are. Things have changed. So leadership here should have new vision that is always trying to adapt with developments, and that's not easy. It's not a vision that is set and khalas. It is not. It is a vision that always you develop and always you enhance and communicate to others, but definitely the campus will be in the right direction.
Okay, we have two questions on Twitter that we'll come back to later. One on the future of journalism, and the other one regarding the biggest challenge for the Middle East. Can we take some questions from the floor on leadership? We'll start with Brother Abdul Fattah. Okay, Sohail. Yes, Sohail first, yes. Yep.
I'm a journalist myself in TV, so a lot of the stuff in terms of ego, the psychology of it, and the meaning, it all kind of resonates with me. But the fact that you said that you were, you started Al Jazeerah, and a lot of your colleagues who worked there, worked in the media before you were born. How did you win them over? How were you able to get that moment where they go, okay, look, I respect this man, even though he's years younger than me? I mean, I want to give you context about myself. I just finished a cadetship, and I do deal with people who have been in the industry for 40, 50 years. But again, you want to put that assertiveness, but at the same time have respect. But how do you win them over with your leadership skills?
Give them the respect that they deserve. And not only that, also really get to know them better and get to learn from them. And this is what I used to enjoy. When I have time, I'll sit with one of these colleagues and spend 1 hour, 2 hours chatting about the profession from his own experience, how does he see the world, where things are heading. You need always to be in touch with these people. And if possible, you can arrange for yourself a sort of a council, a consultative council, that you meet regularly with them. And that is brainstorming session for you that empowers you. Because remember, once you are a leader in an organization, now there are two different kinds of leaders. There is leaders in politics, where you have to go through elections, and there is a leader in organization you have been, put there by a corporate decision. So this is two different kinds of leaders. If you are a leader in an organization, you should remember that after a while you become a matter of fact. And people also, they like to deal with you. Because, they're employees eventually, and they don't want to be left aside. صحيح. So instead of them dealing with you because of element of opportunism or fear or whatever the case, no. They should deal with you in proper forums that you invite. And you allow continuous communication and the process of learning for you and the training for you as a leader. And remember that they're not going to compete with you. You are already there. So whatever they say, if you use their words, you use their ideas and thoughts, and you credit them for it, and you thank them for it, I think they will be happy, and you will be benefiting from it as well. So that is something important. Now, some people would argue about the whole issue of generation. Definitely, there are elements in generation differences. But there is one important element. Wisdom comes with experience. And I do believe that people who have spent a lot of time in doing something, they have some kind of wisdom. They might not be able to articulate. Help them in articulating that. Celebrate their experience. Let people know that you acknowledge them and you credit them and you have learned from them. I really learned from them, and I was not shy at all to sit in any forum and say, my ustad, my teacher is Mr. So-and-so. I have learned a lot from him. So you make yourself, always in touch with people and inform them that you appreciate their experience and you refer to them in certain manners.
Inshallah, we'll alternate between post and from floor. From Twitter, according to classical Islamic philosophy, are there major differences between Western philosophical understandings of leadership?
Let me say something. In Islamic philosophy, always you are doing things for the sake of a higher goal, for the sake of a transcendental goal, for the sake of pleasing your God. Basically, the concept of Tawheed, which is the DNA of the creation, basically, because everything springs from that concept of the oneness of God, the oneness of Allah. So, if that exists, it means whatever you do should be guided in a way or another in that same direction of goodness, of social justice, of truth, and of also celebrating people's diversity and being patient with diversity, not trying to unify everyone in the same way or form that you have. Because why? Because Allah created them like that. Allah created them, and He informed us in the Quran that I have created you in various shapes and forms. And because of that, I have created you. وَلِذَلِكَ خَلَقَهُ. Allah spoke about ikhtilaf, which is the differences, not as something that should be corrected, so where people should be unified. No, He said, I have created you in a different form and shape and manner and psychology and so on and so forth. And that is important for you in order to develop skill and this engagement and interaction where great ideas and philosophies emerge. So that is a philosophy that any leader should follow within the Islamic philosophy and Islamic paradigm. Now, in the Western philosophy and paradigm, achievement and success is much more important than sometimes the higher end, which I sometimes feel a little bit of difficult with. Because the word success sometimes interpreted in a worldly terminology. So you are a great leader because your company has achieved so much success this year, or you have done this and that, and you have been ranked by, I don't know who, as number 1 in the world, or number 10, or the number 100, all that. So the measures of success are materialistic in nature. And in my opinion, the measures of success within the Islamic paradigm are about to what extent you are enforcing ideals and thoughts and ideas that others will follow, and others' lives will be changed because of it towards the best.
Okay, we'll take a question from Paul.
So you mentioned that between leadership and management, and you should have less managers, more leaders. And you mentioned that people should have a vision. So in real concrete terms, what does that mean? Surely you're not talking about just roles and titles. What does that really mean in real terms? My second question, if I may, is you said there's no formal you had no formal training when you moved into your
Non-formal training as a manager. As a
manager?
Yeah.
Right. So
I did not graduate from management school or...
So did you get that formal training later on, and at what stage?
Thank you. Okay, let me answer the first question. You know, I always believe that the hierarchy of action is a pyramid like. And the top of the pyramid, where you are situated as a leader, consists of maybe 3% or 1% or 2% of the action that actually take place within the sphere of any organization. That 1% or 2% are about vision and about campus direction, not about details. So it is not wrong that a leader in an organization, a top leader, is not really informed about things, which is one of the major challenges, because we love to control. There is something everyone of us, we love to control. It means we love to be informed. Sometimes you need to rid yourself of that. And sometimes you need to sacrifice a lot of knowledge about details for the sake of the clarity of your mind. If you are bombarded by a lot of details, most likely you will lose compass, and you will lose the direction, and you will get reactionary and emotional, and then khalas, you are not a leader anymore. And people do not look up to you as leader. You know, I've noticed, for example, when you sit in a meeting and there is a huge catastrophe happening around you, something, whatever, in the organization, if you panic like everyone else, if you start, feeling, excited in a manner that is negative, people lose respect and lose that, touch with you. You need always to have that kind of sakina, which is you have ma'nina, you have some kind of freedom, and that springs again from long training and the 3 elements that I spoke about. So you are keeping the campus in all times, in the time of chaos and in the time of order. You should not think of yourself but someone who is inspiring others and guiding others. Therefore, you don't have the freedom to panic like others. You don't have the freedom to go mad like others, and you don't have the freedom to actually express every single emotion like others. So that is what I do believe. Managers are different, because in management you have sets of rules, you have guidelines, you have policies and procedures that you are following. So the technical mind, the management mind, the administrative mind, and the legal mind in the manager's realm is much more present than the leaders. So the leader is not necessarily systematic in his thinking, and the leader is not necessarily following, a book of guidance. He might think outside the box. He might, in a moment of time, be crazy in his thoughts and ideas. This is why he is innovative. But managers think that no, reality should be adjusted based on the book. And good managers are the managers who deliver versus set of rules. But the best leaders are the leaders who think outside the rules and think outside the box, as you say. Now, the other question was about what? Sorry?
Formal management training.
Formal, of course. After I joined Al-Jazeerah, I spent a few days in a management course, which was useful for me, really, by a trainer, especially a trainer that I did bring, and I trusted and I liked, and I had to spend a lot of time with him, chatting and speaking, and he used to give me a lot of tips, which was necessary. Skills, sometimes, some kind of skills of management, some kinds of skills of meetings, and so on and so forth. But I would say that on long run, what was more beneficial for me than management skills is in fact, the attribute of following what I've been, speaking about. And as you know, in leadership there are many theories, but everyone eventually can write his own theory. صحيح يعني. I mean, there is no one particular theory that خلاص, that's it. But every one of us could develop his own theory if he can really prove himself to be a leader for a community.
So if I can just summarize two important things that you mentioned. The first was leaders should not be micromanaging. And the second aspect to that is if leaders avoid micromanaging procedures and day-to-day running of a project or business, they will also free themselves from the dilemma of having to deal with all this bombardment of details. And they can therefore then focus on the vision and the mission. So we'll take a question now from the sisters.
Hello, Michael. Thanks very much for the talk. I'm a writer and a journalist as well, and one of the things that is emerging now is that we're so easily criticised because online has allowed people to comment quite freely, and it does make it harder in some ways to communicate your message. And you were talking earlier about looking at the bigger picture. How do you approach that in sort of an emerging cyber universe now where everyone has a microphone and everyone tries to detract from your message? Do you think that has an impact on leadership, and what advice do you give to journalists and writers?
Okay, again, the same rules apply. In the realm of journalism, especially in online journalism, and here I refer to social networks, where social networks have empowered the ordinary people with a voice. That is positive and negative. It is positive because it enables them to be confident and to have self-acknowledgement and so on. But also it might be negative because it provides them with illusion of power and illusion of knowledge. Now, in the future, you will notice that people more and more are going back to the concept of following visionary catalysts or leadership. And that's necessary. And I predict, in my speech yesterday in the World Public Forum, I did propose a theory of integral media, whereby I said that media in the future will consist of 3 layers. The first one is the social interaction, which consists of all platforms that exist now and in the future. The second layer is a professional, which consists of journalists who will adapt to the new realm of communication, but they have excellent training. And the third realm is visionary, where philosophers, thinkers, and highly specialized people will exist. So imagine a platform, let us say online platform, but it caters for these 3 delivery contents. The social, the interactive, then the smart one, which is the professional, and then the third one, which is the visionary. And this is where we are heading, because we cannot forever waste our time on Facebook and the Twitter. I will go to Facebook and Twitter, because I would like to express my views. But later on, my followers, if I do not provide them with something visionary, I don't think they will continue following me. Why they should follow me? Like anything else, people also might feel excited about them being heard. But with time, they would like also to learn, because they would like to live their life to the best of their standards. So they will search for the right visionary people to follow. And regarding the issue of criticism, I would advise everyone, actually, not only leaders, do not care about criticism. Really, I'm serious. You waste a lot of time.
Even constructive criticism?
No, I'm speaking here about people. Constructive criticism you learn from, definitely. But I'm speaking about, for example, politicians, or speaking about leaders. I have been leading Al-Jazeerah for 8 years, and during 8 years of leadership, we have been criticized by all, maybe not all, but most sectors of societies and the world. From the
CIA, Mossad,
from everyone,
the Muslim Brotherhood,
from Al-Qaeda, from the Muslim Brotherhood, from CIA, from Mossad, from every human being you can imagine, and every group you could know. So if you every day going to open up the newspapers or the internet and search for your name and what people are speaking about you, and get excited and start responding and get counter response and so on and so forth, believe me, you will fail. The best thing I used to tell my guys in the office, don't tell me what people are saying about you in positive or negative ways. I don't want to know. If you see that there's something wrong happening, come tell me that this is wrong. But please, I don't want to see how many articles today were praising me and how many articles today were accusing me that I'm CIA or I am QandA or I am Muslim Brotherhood. That's not my business. I would like to deliver a message, and I would like my message, my screen, to respond to any criticism, not my rhetoric and my slogan.
So in that situation, a leader is focused on his own agenda, not letting his agenda be set by others.
Absolutely.
Okay, we'll take a question from a post. In your travels from South Africa to Afghanistan to Iraq, did that have any impact on your leadership development?
Of course, I mean, this is the most beautiful actually journey. In South Africa, I have been encountering one of the most magnificent stories of transformation. In 1994, I arrived in South Africa when His Royal Highness Mr. Nelson Mandela became president of free South Africa. And I was really touched by Nelson Mandela. And by the way, the first book I read in English was Long Walk to Freedom for Nelson Mandela. And the book that I started translating, the first book, was Long Walk to Freedom.
Translated it into Arabic.
I started translating it, but later on another colleague followed because I could not, after I became involved with Al-Jazeerah. But I did publish a review of the book in Arabic newspapers. So that was an experience which really captured a lot of my imagination. And he is a true leader. Nelson Mandela is a true leader.
In terms of the issue of forgiveness,
He stands on the vision that he has, and he was stubborn in achieving that vision, and he did not let events drive him in wrong way.
so there was no revenge.
Could you believe that this gentleman spent 27 years in jail, and then he comes out, and the first thing he does is to forgive his enemies, and to allow the white guards who have been guarding him in jail to stand next to him when he was inaugurated as a president. Yet this man was really a jailer. And he was a truly forgiving person, not like someone who was pretending. And he was he had a great heart. And people will be touched by him. His enemies will be touched by him later on. And they will speak to you how much they respected this human being because of his sincerity. So he's a leader. He's a leader, and I would say that we hope to see more leaders like him. Okay, this is South Africa. I spent up to 2001. Then I migrated to Afghanistan. That was another different experience. Afghanistan was a very sad tragedy. Afghanistan, by the way, the Afghani people are amazing humans. They are clean in their hearts. They are very dignified nation, really. And they have a lot of commitment towards ethics and moralities. And that was something amazing. And I just tell you one quick story. Because I know that your time is running.
No, we have a lot of time now.
Okay.
Now we have a lot of time.
After the collapse of Kabul in the hand of the American forces, I was living in a place called Intercontinental, which is not intercontinental at all. It was a building, which was a hotel actually, but it was bombed by every kind of missile in the world, and later on it is a structure. So it has no windows, it has no even roof, and it was very cold and grim and everything is wrong. No water, no electricity. Okay, one day we decided to go to something called coffee shop, which is again not a shop, but they didn't have coffee. It had actually green tea by a gentleman, who decided to take a palace next to the Intercontinental, a palace that was bombed also, and he converted what was left from that palace into a coffee shop. Fantastic. So we have few chairs sitting around, few broken tables, and then we will ask him to give us green tea without sugar, by the way, because we have to bring the sugar most of the time. Anyway, so okay, one day we are sitting with my crew and having tea, entertaining ourselves in Kabul. Next to us there was a table. Two Afghanis, pistol, because I see the way that there's rest, the pistol, the tables, sitting and maybe chatting, whatever. They heard us talking in Arabic. So one of them came to me and he said, "Are you Arab?" I said, "Yes." "Oh, mashallah, you're my brother." Start kissing and hugging. "Fantastic. How are you? What's happening? From where are you?" I said, "I'm from Palestine." "Oh, mashallah, Palestine, our brothers." "Fantastic. Everything is fine." I said, "From where are you?" He said, "From QandA." I said, "Okay." Kandahar just have been, recently in a fight with the Americans. He said, "Yes." After that, I decided to come visit my relatives in Kabul, and I had to walk from Kandahar to Kabul. I spent 10 days walking, himself and his wife. Okay. He said, "I came here to visit my family, but unfortunately I did not find anyone in the house because it seems to me that they have migrated to Kabul, to Pakistan, and I lost contact with them." I said, "Fine." So he started telling us about the tragedy of ordinary Afghani family. And he looks very old. He looks very, I mean, the man did walk for the last 10 days, from Kabul, from Kandahar to Kabul, in a very severe circumstances and very risky environment. And he reached to the destination, he found no one to be with or to sleep, in any house or something. So it's a very tragic situation. I said, I sympathize with him, we talk about what's happening. He insisted on asking me questions about what's happening in Palestine, or what's happening to wherever, okay. After that, he went back to his table, we left the restaurant, or the coffee shop, and I paid for the tea that both of them had, which is like maybe $50 or less or more, I don't remember how much. So I said to the guy, okay, this is for me and for them, just, and we left 50 meters, and I heard this guy shouting behind, and he is running and rushing, very angry. He said, what did you do? I said, nothing. What did I do? He said, did you pay for us? I said, yes. He said, how could you pay for us? You are our guests. I said, yeah, but you see, you have been traveling all this time, and it doesn't matter. خلاص, you are my brother. No problem. Accept it. He said, no, I will never accept it. This is an insult. You are my guest. I am Afghani, and you are my brother coming to visit, and I have to pay. So I insisted. I said, no, I am going to pay. I have already paid. Finished. The guy started crying, and the tears came out of his eyes, and then I had to accept the money back from him. And this is a story that I have seen everywhere in my lifetime. And the whole concept of generosity and the concept of protecting the guest was actually behind everything that has happened in Afghanistan. So this is why the Americans, for example, did not understand Afghan people. They just coming from a background of proper balance of power, geopolitics, I don't know, hegemony of power. They thought that they can, since they have the best aircrafts and the best airstrikes and the best navies and the best soldiers in the world, they can easily control the land. But they did not appreciate that kind of DNA in the society and the resistance that the Afghans did show. And today, now the Americans would like to negotiate with Taliban and exit. And in 2014, they are leaving. And Taliban still exists without leaving. And this is an amazing story, by the way. It is one of the most amazing stories, and it should be analyzed, because I do believe that the spirit of any nation is much more powerful than any army in the world. And if any government does not understand the spirit of the nation, will fail. In Iraq, I have seen the same scenario repeating itself, and before the Afghanistan.
So in South Africa, you learned forgiveness. In Afghanistan, generosity. What did you learn in Iraq?
I must say that again, there is very deep sense of history in that. I think the Iraqis in Baghdad never forgot that they have ruled the world for a few centuries. So that depth of history has built very solid personality. I've never seen more resilient than the Iraqis in politics, in resistance, in any form and shape of action. They're very resilient, sometimes very stubborn. Why? Because they have deep roots in history. And they don't think of, and by the way, the human being is not, his history is not when he was born. His history goes back long time before that. And the accumulation of knowledge and the collective memory is much more important than the personal experience. We inherit that as we do inherit our, genes from our fathers and mothers. We do inherit actually our collective memory from our society. And when Iraq has been ruling the world for decades, for centuries, I mean, during the Abbasids and so on, I think they have really built a character which is very interesting. And the Americans again did not understand that. I remember one day, again another story, a gentleman by the name of, I don't remember his name now, he's the commander of the land armies of the Americans in Iraq. He came to visit us in Al-Jazeerah. I was the very chief of Al-Jazeerah. So he said to me, Akhi, I would like to ask you a question. I said, please. He said, how on earth we are getting rid of dictatorship, Saddam Hussein, bringing $18 billion to build the country, bringing them democracy, and giving them a great opportunity for the future. And they are now following some stupid people and poor leaders, and they are fighting against us. Don't they understand? I said, but I would like to tell you that in the sight of the Iraqis, there's something called dignity. And you are occupied. Maybe you thought you are bringing democracy, but you are bringing democracy in the wrong way. Dignity. Dignity is the most important thing for the human being. Once your land is occupied, it does not matter if you are giving me $18 billion or $18 trillion. There is something above money. There is something above materialism. He answered by saying, I acknowledge what you say, but I cannot understand. Which I think exactly this is what the Americans, the whole American story does.
It goes back to the issue of the mind not being able to learn from others.
Yeah.
And it's related to arrogance. Very good. We'll take a question now from the floor. Who's got the mic from the gentleman?
Question, were you present, the leader of Al-Jazeerah, when the journalist was killed in Iraq?
No, I was the bureau chief of, I was in Iraq when the journalist was killed in Iraq. So I was not yet a managing director. But later, of course, unfortunately, many other colleagues were killed when I was actually in Al-Jazeerah.
So my question was, what is the leadership quality that you had to draw most in the situation where colleagues were killed?
That is the worst moment in your history, in your life, in your career, when someone is killed. I remember the last, I was attending the Al-Jazeerah International Forum, and I was meeting, this is an annual event that Al-Jazeerah holds. We bring about 300 journalists from all over the world, and we discuss issues related to the profession. And that night, I remember having a meeting with American journalists in that hotel, and I was talking to them, and suddenly someone did ring me, and I did take the call. And the guy told me that your colleague so-and-so has been killed in Iraq in Libya by Al-Qaddafi forces. He was shot, and his name is Ali Hassan al-Jabal. He's a cameraman from Qatar. We sent him with a crew to Benghazi, and then they assassinated him. That was really one of the worst moments that I have felt, because on personal level I know him very well, and also the responsibility and the burden is very huge. And really, you start now thinking to what extent you made a good decision in sending someone to a rescue place like that. Although we have never ever sent anyone unless it be volunteer. I mean, we never forced anyone to.
So how did you get them to volunteer?
In circumstances like that, you inform everyone saying that we would like to go cover Libya. Whoever would like to join, he must come and report to whoever in charge, and then people come and report. And therefore, you choose those who are willing actually to go, and you don't normally pressurize people to go. And if someone, based on the code of ethics of Al-Jazeerah and the universal code of ethics, however, you can never force anyone to go into a hotspot or a risky zone.
Would you relate this to your leadership and the impact that had on your journalists in terms of volunteering, that spirit of sharing your vision?
Okay, now to answer the question just before we move, what would I have reacted at that time? I broke in tears, number one. I never noticed that I was crying. They were shocked. The American journalists, suddenly this guy's crying, what's happening? So, but I told them that this is what's happening, and I really, felt emotional about it. The second thing, of course, I finished that tears story, but now, you put on your clothes, your tie, you go to the studio, to the newsroom. The most important element in leadership is to make sure that employees feel that you appreciate what this gentleman has done. You decide to stand for him and his family, and you honor his memory, and the audience should know. So I did appear on the screen, which normally, rarely I do at that time. I did appear on the menus, full of them, and I did address the audience by telling them this is what happened to us, and we are willing as journalists to sacrifice our lives for the sake of bringing truth to you. And we honor this person who has passed away, and may Allah accept him. But I would say that I personally, and all my colleagues and Al Jazeera, will never surrender to the pressure and to terrorism of the states who are trying to silence us. This is a message that you should put forward, because if they feel that you are weak, then the next day someone else will be killed. And if other governments feel that killing your staff could silence you, then another country should start doing the same. But if you feel more killing means more action on the ground, more coverage, they will be more reluctant. And believe me, after that particular, I mean, that was amazing event. You know what happened after I've spoken to the people? A demonstration, which was very powerful and massive demonstration, immediately, simultaneously started in many towns and villages in Libya. And now, in Benghazi, they carried his coffin, and they made a huge prayer on him. Tens of thousands of people. And the whole night, people were marching in the streets, and then they started a brigade called Ali Hassan Jabir Brigade. And then when after the collapse of Gaddafi, I went to visit the country, and I found that they have established a museum that they call it Ali Hassan Jabir, and they have commemorated him in a memorial that they have done, not us. So this is important. Your relationship with the people is very. When people like you, you are protected, and they inspire you to continue. But if your blood and your colleagues' blood could be going without anyone asking, that's very risky. So you need always to really communicate with the people themselves and make them your best friends and best guards in the future.
Okay, we'll take a question from the sisters.
Assalamu alaikum. This is not a leadership question. Is that okay? I was just wondering, speaking from a journalistic perspective, how does one report ethically and report fairly when you're, I suppose, constrained to a certain organisation's ideologies, whether it's political or whatever it is, and there's a hierarchy, as you know, so you've got people above you sort of dictating what you're doing. How can you do that in an industry where it's dominated in such a way?
Okay. First of all, I would like to say, in an environment of reporting, or an organization that reported news, I do not accept ideology, I do not accept politics. And I do believe that journalism that follows certain ideological or political discourse is not professional, not honest, and not sincere. That's to start. So we used to fight against any ideological or political spin in Algeria. And by the way, and religious spin again. Because our newsroom, for many of you, maybe they think, our newsroom consists of 55 nationalities. Wherever I go in the world, including here in Australia, I have met colleagues who have been working with us in Al-Jazeerah, and they came back to work with ABC and many other TV stations and networks, and they are not Muslims, and they are not Arabs. Even in the Arabic newsroom, the Arabic channel newsroom, we have Muslims, we have Christians, we have Shia, we have Sunni, we have Arabs, we have Kurds, we have Druze, we have, all sects and groups and religious groups. We have Islamists, leftists, secularists, nationalists. Doesn't matter. You have your own sub-identity. But when it comes to you as a journalist in Al Jazeera, you abide by code of ethics and code of conduct of Al Jazeera. Your personal view will be highly respected and appreciated, and you are free, to have whatever view you have. But once you are in front of a screen, or you are writing for the network, or you are doing something on behalf of the network, then you are not, in this case, representing your religion, or your ethnicity, or your sect, or your political affiliation. That is important. That was very important for us to achieve. And we did that in Arabic channel, and we did that in the English channel, where we had even much more diversity, coming from all over the world to start a channel which was in English, and alhamdulillah, in few years became the most informative channel in the world. And last year that Al Jazeera English won the best channel of the year, international. Because there is a very solid core of values and ethics that Al Jazeera actually abide by and enforce within the newsroom. I don't believe that we should have ideological media or political media. That is propaganda. And I don't think that is the right way to the minds and hearts of people.
So that would be propaganda or public relations disguised as journalism.
Correct.
Okay, we'll take a question from the brother side. Brother Hassan.
My question is, what is the effect of the charisma on leadership? And is this something that we can learn, like management skills? And the second one is regarding your experience in Kirkuk. We thought that you and your team had a bad time and you were about to lose your lives in Iraq at that time, just before you become the managing director of Al Jazeera. I want you to tell us, how did you lead your team to go through this experience? Thank you.
Thank you very much. You know, charisma, of course, is very important, and that is given. You know, very rare that you can really develop charisma. Charisma is something, in my opinion, most of it is given, inherited in our life. So that is important, but that is not necessarily, does not prevent people who do not have charisma to be leaders. We have seen great generals, great leaders, and emperors who do not really have the charisma, but they have the intellect and they have the mind and the strength and the resolution to communicate a strong message to the people. Now, going back to Al-Jazeerah, in fact, you know, once you accept to cover wars in particular, you should accept and expect any kind of surprise. And most of the surprises are not good. Most of them not good, because once there is a surprise in the field, it means that something wrong has happened. And I'll tell you one story that relates to the question that you asked and relates to the situation of Australia. Okay? I was actually covering the first story, the first attack of the American forces of the war against Iraq took place in northern Iraq, on the borders between Iran and Iraq, an area in the northern Iraq which is Kurdistan. And they bombed headquarters of Al-Jama'ah Islamiyya of Kurdistan and Ansar al-Islam, again another group that was operating in an area called Khurman in northern Sulaymania. I was the first person, not the first, but actually I arrived to the scene, or close to the scene, early in the morning, to find some colleagues have come before me. But none of them wanted to go further to visit the village or the camp where this group, which was accused of connection with Al-Qaeda, has been bombed. Like to say about 10-15 kilometers far from the scene. So my brave driver actually and my cameraman, both of them accepted that we drive and go through to the village. We did. We went through, we arrived to the camp and we find that the camp has been demolished and I counted 35 mutilated bodies in front of me, and I did film the scene. And I did come back. When I was back, I arrived to the checkpoint where the colleagues are still waiting. And now I have about 20 maybe people standing there in the checkpoint. Some of them are journalists, some of them are camera people, and so on and so forth. But they are not actually trying to go in because they could hear again some shelling taking place, because shelling continued until that moment. So I stood up. I mean, when they came to me, I remember sitting in the car, and a journalist, a colleague who was working with, I think with ABC Australia at that time, and many other colleagues came to ask me questions about what have you seen, what is the situation, and I was giving them some information about what's happening, but I was really rushing back to the studios in Sulaymania to feed the pictures, because I thought this is the first pictures ever to be captured for an attack in Iraq, and it was really everywhere in the world. I mean, I'm sure that you will remember these pictures. It was the only pictures that were shot for that particular scene, because after that, no one actually was able to go in. I drove a little bit, then a car exploded in the same checkpoint where I was chatting with police, and some of them passed away or were killed, including the ABC reporter who was actually even killed in that particular attack. What happened is that the group that was hit, I think they did send this car in a way or another to a village. And the first checkpoint that they found is that checkpoint, where the Peshmerga, the Kurdish Peshmerga, is guarding the access to this village, and journalists are waiting to get any news out of that village. And the car exploded, and people were killed. So that incident led me to think that, you know, there is a strong element, not of luck, but a strong element of what you call, you know, because I have divine providence. You go into the place and you come out of the place unharmed, and people who thought of maybe waiting for a while to go in were harmed. Again, this incident happened everywhere. So I thought in the case of wars, you know, everything is expected, and nothing necessarily following the logic. Of course, we take all kinds of precautions, but who knows what kind of event and when it could happen.
We'll take a question from the floor. Yeah, who's got the next mic?
Assalamu alaikum. Brother Wadah, you spoke about interest and professionalism, and you spoke as well about value and ethic. And you always refer to value and ethic should become above the professionalism and the interest. My question to you, actually, what's the advice you can give to the Muslim community leader in this country, which always sees the struggling between serve the compromise between the interest and professionalism and the value, and this is the what advice you can give us regarding this. The other question, actually, we would like to hear from you about this, about the Sharq Forum. We didn't hear about it. We know you're here to represent or one of your part of the Sharq Forum. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll take a few more, and I think we're approaching 9:35, and we've been going for almost 55 minutes. We have a few more questions. I think we've taxed Brother Wadah a lot today. In fact, his day started at 1 a.m. this morning. He gave an interview with an Arab channel overseas, and then we picked him up at 7 o'clock to take him to the ABC TV News studio for an interview, a live interview at 7:30. We did an additional 5 media interviews, which finished at about 3 o'clock this afternoon. So, really, his time, he's been so generous with his time, and to have the strength and energy that he has tonight, and I think you will agree with me that the engagement that we've had right now, this is just something amazing, and we thank Brother Wadah for that. We'll take a few more questions. From Sister Salma. Not that we'll remember any of the other questions. We'll just lump them all into one thing, inshallah.
Thank you. Thank you very much for a very inspirational evening. It's been really wonderful. It's a pleasure to have you here. I've just got one question in terms of journalism. As somebody who's been in the field for a long time, what do you see the future for young aspiring journalists in this age of bloggers, smartphone reporting and instant news, tweeted news? How much of a future, a viable future, is there for paid journalism in your view?
Okay, we'll take 2 more questions from that side. Yeah? I'll try and remember them. Brother Qadr is about Muslim leadership and the Sharq Forum, and we have now the future of journalism, given the threats of social media.
Sorry. Just the leadership traits presented to us, I feel is somewhat confined on an organisational level, such as Al-Jazeerah. So since we're all here, I think, looking for a platform as to how we can lead from a communal level in terms of dawah and work generally, on a community level, can what you sort of suggested apply on a communal level, and also how can we acquire the skills to be a leader on all levels and in all structures, so not just an organisation but also in a community.
My question was, it just rose from what Zachary Matthews was commenting on, that leadership is not just a 9-to-5 role. It seems to be something that is in your whole life and everything that you do on a day-to-day, and not it's 24/7 basically. How do you manage that? How do you handle the responsibility of your husband, father, or brother? Have, in terms of women around here, I'm sure that most of us are working women, and we want to assume leadership roles, but it takes so much of our time and energy. And mashallah, it's great when we can do that, but often we're faced with the challenges of work-life balances. And how do you, and what advice can you give to women to manage that problem, or I suppose challenge?
Thank you.
Yeah, just actually have many questions, but I'll just put them into one. Thanks for Wadah again. Now I've got the leader. I'm not going to ask about the leadership. I'm going to ask about the people who are the leader. Especially in Australia, we have probably people agree with me that we have a problem where we have people, the Muslim community, who are occupying the leadership post, but not really providing any leadership. They are not providing us with a vision or a specific mission or direction. They don't really have that compass to lead us. What's the best way to handle these people? I'm sure you faced them all over the place.
Okay, I think that's all the questions for tonight.
Okay.
You agreed, inshallah?
Last question there.
One last question from Brother Walid and Brother Bassam. We'll be generous, inshallah.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Brother, first of all, welcome to Australia. Ahlan wa sahlan bik, and welcome to your extended family. And as you know, family tends to impose, so we do apologise for imposing on you and kicking you back. I'm very interested in your spirituality and the concept of spirituality and leadership. I think I tend to agree with you that that's an area that is yet to be fully explored. But in addition to spirituality being important to the leader, I think I have two essential questions that I'd like you to reflect with your experiences on in life as a very formative leader. And the first is, how much of transformative success and the leadership qualities is about the leader himself or herself, as distinct from the quality of the followers. And I guess here I'm reflecting about the Prophet ﷺ as the definitive example of leadership and the leader, and the quality of his followers, because that balance is crucial in my opinion. And the other thing is that how important for transformative success, how important is democracy to a leader? Because certainly history is full of examples where some of the most successful leaders are very much autocratic in their style, and democracy is something that comes later. Jazakallahu khairan.
Okay, last question from Brother Hassan.
Fine. Assalamu alaikum. Jazakallah khair for the great talk today. I just have a small question about Muslims here in Australia are under continuous stereotyping, and I just wanted to get your input as a media person on how we should deal with this problem of minorities being under continuous oppression from the general public. How should we deal with it as individuals rather than media people? Thank you.
I would say about community, let me first tell you that I don't believe in something called minorities. This is number one. Once you classify yourself as a minority, it means you are isolating yourself from the mainstream. So I don't believe in minorities. I've been living in South Africa for 8 years, and I've seen that Muslims in South Africa, in a way or another, were thinking of themselves sometimes as minorities, and I was against this notion. And my advice always is to be, think of yourself. When do you define yourself as a minority? You define yourself as a minority if you define your belonging on ethnic and religious terms. If you redefine your identity on value-centered paradigm, you become part of the majority. Because most of the people love justice. Most of the people love, freedom. Most of the people love charity. There are values that brings Muslims, Christians, Jews, and every other religion and ethnicities together. So redefine yourself as an agent for values. And in this case, you are not only part of the majority, but also you might be a leader in the majority as well. So that is important. Second, for those who have migrated into this country and they believe that they're going to continue living in this country, they should not feel that their presence is temporary and they are about just to collect a little bit of money and go back to wherever they have. Or feel that threat against themselves and their identity is so severe to an extent they need to live in a cocoon and close off their societies. That's not going to work. In the age of interconnectivity, in the age of social networks, whatever you are going to do, if you don't empower your children or your families or your community with higher order and values and thinking about doing something good for everyone, you are not going to succeed in protecting your identity. So migrate towards openness, not closeness. And that will guarantee much more security for your identity and for your values. And the values of Islam, as we have learned it, are universal. Sahih, there are elements in it about worshipping and the ibadah and the rituals and so on and so forth, which are personal law and so on and so forth. But when it comes to the essence of Islam, which has inherited Christianity, Judaism, and inherited the message of all prophets, is in fact universal. So can we transcend our values that are Islamic, between two brackets, into values that are universal based on the Islamic values? This is a question that all of us should contemplate.
Just quickly on that point, does it lack a sense of loss in self-confidence?
Of course it does. I mean, again, this is also part of our background. When sometimes we came as laborers or immigrants in order to achieve certain kind of monetary gains and go back, we thought of ourselves as temporary people who do not have the same rights. And I would say that some of the societies that, like the South African society, was racist in a way. So even if you would like to be part of the majority, you are not allowed by law. Because if you are not white, if you are whatever, you are going to be classified in a certain category. But with the increase of democracy and openness and so on and so forth, it was becoming easier for us to be part of the majority and to really lead value paradigm rather than ethnic or religious paradigm. This is one. Second, about leadership in the community. I know that sometimes traditional leadership of communities are entrusted on keeping certain kind of concepts. And these concepts sometimes are ancient, and sometimes the structures are ancient. And sometimes you feel that you are really, as a new generation or as people who directly to accomplish change in the society, you feel tight because those who represent you officially are not in fact in line with what you aspire to achieve and deliver. My advice in this case, try your best, but don't pick up a confrontation. If you do not succeed in creating democratic institutions where people could really start debating and discussing these issues in public and really developing their paradigm of thinking, establish something else. Not necessarily this particular council or that particular organization that I need to go occupy and kick out the current leadership and take over. Try to establish new initiatives in certain direction that does not contradict with whatever you have, and slowly, believe me, the historical trend is towards more open, more engaging, more, beneficial view rather than the old one. So that is, I don't think that you should fight battles. Fighting battles, you drain your energy and resources for no reason. Just go do whatever you have in your mind in a proper manner, and not as a reaction or as an revenge to what exists, and inshallah you will succeed, and with time you will gain the status of leadership rather than...
Is this something slightly different to the Arab Spring and the role of the youth during the Arab Spring? Is it the same paradigm, or
in the Arab
is the
Spring,
context there different?
Of course, the Arab Spring, the problem was the state has become so entrenched in people's lives to an extent that any initiative that they would like to achieve will be killed by the state. The intelligence agencies, the security agencies, and so on will not allow anyone to breathe.
Context is completely different.
So you have to revolt in order to build something new, and this is what happened in the Arab World. going back to the second set of questions about the concept of leadership and the concept of people who lead with a leader. Actually, the worst kind of leadership is the one who feel jealous, of others, and he feels that he could continue to be a leader if everyone else disappears. And this is what we refer to the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ, everyone around him was a leader, and he used to make sure that they acquire that confidence in themselves. If you remember the hadith, when a man came to the mosque and he found the Prophet sitting with his companions, but he didn't know who was the Prophet. He said, Ayyukum Muhammad? Who amongst you is Muhammad? That kind of question tells you that the Prophet was not put in a status or in a shape or a form that he looks different from others. They are equal. He was a great leader, not because he enforced himself. And I think most of leaders who succeed, they don't succeed because they have enforced themselves. And a message to leaders as well. You are there already. So if you are there, relax and take it easy. No, serious, take it easy. Don't feel always threatened. Because the more you feel threatened, the more you are vulnerable. The more you feel confident, and the more you feel open and tolerant, the more you are secure. Believe me, that is very important too. You are confident if you are insecure, if you do not feel that people are just going to take your place, and they will not take your place if you are. They will take your place when you become vulnerable, and you start this nitty-gritty, stupid kind of behavior to circle everyone and isolate him from the group. The second issue about people who as well with leaders, sometimes leaders are positive in their attitude, sometimes they are very negative. Sometimes they have tempers, and sometimes they are patient. Now, it's the same for me. I used sometimes to lose my temper in certain circumstances because whatever happens, especially,
You're human, you're not an angel.
You are human, and I would say always that you should not demand from leaders not to exact, because then they are not really something that you will follow, because you are a model, you are a replica of everyone else. Maybe you have a little bit more vision and so on and so forth, but you do not see yourself sacred, or as you said, angel. So, what I would like to say, in this case, don't threaten and don't try to pick up on every single shortcoming of the leader that you are working with, because most likely you will end picking up a confrontation and draining your resources and your organizational resources. The best people I have worked with were the patient people who will really, try to accommodate me when I'm, outside this kind of frame, when they are giving the advice and sincere advice, and they give it in a proper manner. And really later on, I will never take a serious decision after consultation. So this is also again for people who work with leaders. And sometimes you may find yourself, confronting your leader with certain kind of issues that you feel that they are not, properly done or managed. But definitely the way that you do it is more important than anything else, exactly. So you do it in a way that could give a feeling of collective, vision, collective interest. You are not scoring, or you are not trying to create some kind of negative feeling against this person or that person. The third set of questions, just to conclude, is about journalism. I do predict that, yes, journalists will survive, professional journalists, but not the ones that we have been accustomed to. In a way, the quality of journalists who will survive are smart journalists. Smart journalists in what way? They deliver depth. They have great knowledge of priorities, and they have excellent talent of contextualization. What does that mean? It means they are actually excellent analysts. They are excellent students of history. And they can transcend events into knowledge. The kind of journalists I see in the future are towards more of thinkers analysts and intellectuals, rather than skilled humans or skilled journalists who just know how to write and how to blog or how to put a report together for the screen. That's important. The newsroom that I forecast for the future is small, consists of visionary, smart journalists, based on the definition that I have given, who act as a hub of interpreting the news, of putting context for the news, and prioritizing the news. Because unfortunately, social networks do not have that talent. Most of our social networks, because they are flat, they may not actually develop a sense of priority or a sense of forecasting or a sense of contextualization. That will be your role as a professional journalist in the future, because most of the news gathering can be done through social networks, smart social networks, smart bloggers, but the analyzing and the strategizing and the vision should be done by the core group sitting in the newsroom. So the newsroom is smaller, is cheaper to maintain, but definitely it delivers value and adds value to the news, while the news could be coming from within the social networks. So yes, we will continue to be relevant, but we have to upgrade our skills and to really work hard in order to develop much more journalism. I call it journalism of depth. Journalism of depth versus journalism of the surface, where you just touch on the news and bombard people with fragmented information and fragmented data. Data and information does not give vision, does not give knowledge. And the great philosopher, when they said that data are accurate lies, data are accurate lies, because if data are not put in a proper balanced framework of analysis, could distract you from the truth. And thank you very much.
Jazakallah khairan. Thank you very much. There's nothing further to say. We can be here all night, but inshallah, I think we've gained a lot out of tonight, and I think you will agree with me that we have achieved the plan and objective and goal that we set for tonight. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala finally to bless Brother Wadah and his family, and to give him the strength to continue this mission of his, to build bridges and plot a path and a vision for a new future, especially for the Middle East, and especially for the youth of the Middle East. Jazakallah khairan. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Give a little of yourself, cure your greed, purify your wealth. Look around at where you live, look at all the good you have to give. Give a little of yourself. There's a hand somewhere to hold, a mouth to feed. There's so much that we can do for so many who are in need. Give our time, give our wealth, give our love, give ourselves. Know Allah sees each and every hidden deed.